the air, baby.
I see it. I'm in a browser.
Wow. Let's see, are there people in the chat yet? We've got 0 viewers so far. Wait, no, we have some viewers, yeah. Sorry, it says 0 viewers for me at the top, but it says users in chat. It says it's the
There's
dangers
always
in the chat.
hello, Danger. Or hello, it's them. Mr. Danger. Mrs. Danger.
Risky. Let's see. I'm also going to open the Twitch stream on my end. Cool, and we'll give a few minutes for people to filter in, show up. Hi, Danger. Good to see you. I'm glad you always make these dev streams.
God, I lost the chat. Oh, there we go.
But I forget how you get it to happen. There's like a button you can hit to pop the chat out. Oh yeah, actually if you right click the settings in the bottom by the chat button, Dave, you can, there's a pop out chat thing in the cog.
Technology.
We love it. He's not gonna miss another one. Oh, did you miss the last one? Oh, my webcam is low.
You should get some kind of badge for the number of dev streams that you make it to.
True.
Like Boy Scout badges or Girl Scout badges.
I realized I was on the wrong part of the mirror board. But we're doing good. How are you doing? We'll get a couple more minutes. Hi, Fox and Bull. Welcome in. Hi, Meepy. Always
Hello.
Good to see y'all.
I stream with Goober. I don't know what a goober is. What's a goober?
Oh, oops. Streamlabs, please. Yeah, my new name is Dave. I'll take that. I'd rather be Dave sometimes, honestly.
It's a reasonably good name. So I hear.
Pretty good, pretty good.
It's not bad.
Steph. No, oh, if I do all caps, it goes off the screen. No caps. Just Steph. Thanks for spotting that. That's funny. Oh wait, it changes us both. That's funny. It's mad.
Alright, I'll be Steph. This is like Freaky Friday, the movie, where we're gonna swap bodies.
That would be pretty sick, actually. I would be so in shape. I will have never been that in shape.
And then I could cook whatever I want.
I cooked a really good dinner last night, actually. I made, what was the recipe name? Was green chile chicken cheesy skillet or something like that. At least those were all the words in it. I don't know if that's the order.
What?
But it was good. Made some, like,
you know what I made?
Homemade salsa verde. What you made?
Well, all that stuff, you made 10x what I made. I made garden salad.
Oh, see, and that's why you're so in shape.
I would have preferred yours.
Trying to think, was it? Are you still gluten free?
Yep.
Trying to think, was mine gluten free? Yeah, I think so.
What was it?
Chicken.
Chicken. If there's no crusty
no
stuff.
Crust, nope. No breading, no nothing. It was literally like you make the salsa verde with like, you know, like the chilies and the tomatillos and whatever, you like roast them. And then, you know, steam them, peel them, whatever off. And then you just like blend it. And then you take the chicken that you seasoned and put it in a pan with the sauce on it. And then you put cheese on top and then you bake it. Easy.
Solid. Yeah. Usually Mexican food's pretty safe unless you get the flour tortilla.
Yeah,
if you did corn, then it's all right.
Nice. I did pair it with rice, which I think you can also eat.
Yes.
Oh, Michael had Korean fried chicken. I'm jealous. That's definitely not gluten-free.
I can't eat that. I'm very sad. I love Korean fried chicken.
Welcome in. A lot of people showing up. Happy to see y'all. Welcome to the dev stream.
Hello.
Oh, we got a lot of frequent flyers in the chat today. Da Vinci, the name's L, Cubio, Fox and Bull. Oh, I had pork butt with green bean and onions. That sounds really good.
Dang.
Oh, people been
Everybody's
cooking
got
some good
these
stuff.
gourmet meals.
I feel like I have to do that, or else I'll like lose the motivation to cook, and I'll just eat like bulldog ramen every night.
Yeah.
I have to like keep myself like engaged in the process. Oh, the name's Elle said, loving the new intro on the alpha. Fox and Bull said, same. Thanks for the kind words. Forsetti, welcome in.
Yeah. Drama plus plus on the
Yeah.
intro. Yeah.
Yeah, the team did a really great job with that. It's really cool. If you haven't seen Tiz Sarabera's rendition of it, I think it's in the Clips channel. Maybe it's in the Memes channel. You should go watch it.
Congrats, Kibio.
Oh yeah, congrats! That's so fun. Also, worthy cause. You gotta fast for the steak.
It'd be funny if there you just had a Ruth's Chris anniversary and it happened that your relationship anniversary was the same day. So it's really about the Ruth's Chris. Anniversary is just a reason.
Just kind of like a byproduct.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome in, Arctic's Party and first time chatter. Thanks for the first time chat. So glad to hear you're loving the game. Woohoo! Grace made it. Awesome. Okay, I think we've got a lot of people, so we'll go ahead and start cracking into it. So yeah, welcome to our Voyagers of Nera dev stream. If you haven't been in one of these, we have them about every 2 weeks, and we talk about lots of different topics about game development and what's going on in the game currently. We feature different members of the dev team. Today, we have Dave, who we have referenced on some other streams. So Dave will give us an intro. But I'm Stephanie, if you haven't tuned in before. I'm the producer at Treehouse. I handle a lot of like what the team works on day to day, prioritization, our roadmap, the playtest builds that we ship to you. So that's a lot of what I handle. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Dave. Some people might know me through references. I am the accidental inventor of the butt slide emote, the one where everybody slides around while sitting. But aside from that, I was the first engineer here way back when, years ago. But since then, we got a lot more engineers who do great work. So I'm now more of in a technical director role, studio operations role, which involves a lot of just making good choices rather than working on individual features. So while everybody is really focused on, hey, this is this great feature that I really put my heart and soul into, I'm usually a background guy. I usually help out with the glue that helps people make good choices and get that kind of stuff done.
Dave is also kind of a paratrooper, I feel like. If we have like a really big problem, we're like, deploy Dave. He can help it.
Yeah. So what's that called? Like a shock trooper or blitzkrieger? I don't know. But yeah, aside from that, I do other stuff like I'm an improv guy. I love improv. Touching a lot of grass, a lot of hobbies on the side.
Dave has the most hobbies, like a collector of hobbies almost. And he's good at all of them. It's very obnoxious.
I do like them.
Yeah, so today is the Dave stream. But before we go into our topic today, which is going to be about shipping features and how to ship a game, let's recap a little bit of some recent events. So right now, yesterday, actually, we launched our new playtest. So patch notes are up for that. If you are in the alpha, you will have a new build with a bunch of changes in it, including the intro, which a lot of people referenced coming into the chat. So we have a new playtest that we just launched. We're really excited to get your feedback. And I think we've mentioned it before in previous streams, but we're really gearing up especially towards Next Fest and trying to increase the polish and the intro to the game and just like the overall UI and make sure things are more legible and stable. So that's a big focus. There are some new features coming in, but a lot of it's towards quality of life, improvements, stability. So we're really looking forward to getting your help testing and getting your feedback. But definitely check it out if you haven't. If you are only playing the demo right now and you would like to be an alpha tester, we actually have a sign up process. So you can head to our Discord and we have a playtest sign up channel with a link pinned in the channel. So you could go check that out and sign up. We accept people, especially at the beginning of a playtest period, pretty frequently. So if you do apply, you could expect you'll likely get in. Also, welcome in some new first-time chatters as well. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Synctra, you're in Discord. We just talked this morning. Welcome in.
Welcome.
And Chuck, welcome in. I think I talked to you in chat, but official welcome in. Another thing going on right now in our Discord is our fan art contest. Woohoo! So a few weeks ago we had a screenshot contest, but right now we have a fan art contest. And it's hopefully a fan art type that is accessible to many people because it's more of like an MS Paint style draw your own Bulwog fan art contest. And a winner will have their Bulwog fan art memorialized in the Discord as an emote. So yeah, definitely submit drawings. It'll be really fun. There's already some really cute entries. It's a really fun type of contest. The team also drew some. So if you're shy, this is what some of our team did. So definitely we would love to see what you would draw. It would be really fun to have a cool emote, I think, memorialized in the Discord. Luke's is very abstract.
Abstract. I don't know why it reminds me of a car, like a toy car.
Yeah, something about like maybe the shine on the thing and like the roundness of some of the shapes.
Yep. Fever dream.
Welcome in, first time chat Omen. But yeah, so definitely check out the Bulwog art contest. You can find it under this channel name in like I think there's like an art section in our Discord. So definitely go check that out. But that's some of the recent events happening right now in the Discord. So I just wanted to make sure you knew. But otherwise, we will kind of start to kick in to our actual stream content today. Dave, what are we talking about today?
So we are talking about what it takes to ship a game, and maybe more specifically, what it takes to ship a feature in the game. Features, plural. And we have so many of them. And what it takes to get from start to finish and finish these things so we can have a complete game. And the thought process behind it. Yeah. Should I get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. I'll follow you on the mirror board. So I'm following your lead.
Okay, cool. Tell me when it's good.
It's good.
Looks good. All right. So yeah. Let's talk about finishing the game. So we've got a game. A lot of people are playing it already, and it's got a lot of features, but there's just so many more to add. And part of the process has been to we source what else needs to be in the game to be considered done. We source that internally. We ask people like y'all who are actively playing either in the demo or the closed access version of the game, which has a little bit more features, and we getting more ideas from the feature upvote. And here's an example of some of the features that people have voted for, and we actually took them into consideration. We got them in, but there's plenty more to do. This bottom picture is from our internal Jira, our work tracking board. Boy, that seems like a lot of to-dos, and seems like a lot of opens. And we're a small team, and there's just so much to do. And many of these ideas they're all good ideas. I'd like to think that when people suggest stuff, there aren't too many silly ideas. They all come from good places, and they're generally would be a plus to the game. But we need to figure out how to finish the game, and so sometimes it's a matter of choice. And so today we're going to talk about what it means to make choices on some of these suggestions, and what those choices mean. Cool. All right. So I mentioned before, I'm more of a background kind of person, so I don't usually operate directly on finish this feature from start to end. So what I do help out with is figuring out how and how much would it take to make this feature. And with that information, sometimes there's a lot of assumptions that come along with those answering those two questions. And with that information, we can make a better choice about is this a feature that we should do right now, or is it something we need to back burner, or maybe it's just a feature that isn't in line with what the vision of the game should be. And even though a lot of these features are pretty well-meaning, I don't think anybody would suggest, hey, let's add rocket launchers to our game. It just doesn't make sense. Most of the time, people make very sensible
I'll remove my
suggestions.
rocket
But
launcher request from the backlog.
all right, I asked for that. Someone's it's going to be right to the top of the feature upload board. I know it. Usually people make great suggestions, but there's a lot of assumptions that are hiding behind that assumption, behind that request. So, what my job ends up being a lot of the time is finding those assumptions and making sure they're very obvious. So when we say rocket launcher in our game, we kind of laugh it off and say, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But we should really ask ourselves, why doesn't it make sense? I mean, we have ranged weapons in the game. We have a bow. That's a ranged weapon, right? So what place does a rocket launcher not make sense? Uh, Monty Pants asks, kind of like reading between the lines. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's a lot of the unspoken parts that when people make this request, they're coming from it from a certain context. They have this impression of what the game is, and maybe they're making a lot of assumptions that, as the devs, we should know what that context is too. Like, yeah, of course everybody would want rocket launchers because every game with a rocket launcher is great, right? So maybe that's an assumption that we need to get on the same page about. So really, it's about reading between the lines. Coconut launcher. All right, we're skirting the
See, we're starting to get it. Yeah, we
good.
get out some of those assumptions. We work through the idea.
Yeah. So that's great. So like if maybe the assumption is that hey, a rocket launcher doesn't thematically fit our game. Now that we're on the same page, if we assume that assumption's true, well, maybe a coconut launcher makes a lot of sense. Okay, but there could be even more assumptions. But the point would be that we need to get all those assumptions listed out, get on the same page, and say, do we agree that these are the assumptions? Then we can make some great choices that drive whether or not we should go forward. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about improv today. Michael and Steph said I had to talk about the game, though. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to talk about improv and the game. So today, you all might learn a little about improv. And if you guys haven't heard about improv before or have just heard about it but don't really know what it involves, it doesn't mean just making up jokes on the fly. Not sure. Well, here, the short answer for improv is we have, usually it involves a couple people, maybe two people, and without a lot of context, maybe they'll just have a statement. They have to really quickly get on the same page about assumptions. And that sounds pretty similar to what we're trying to do here. Someone says, I would love to have this feature without a lot of context. And how quickly can, if it's a player, how quickly can we as the game developers get on the same page about, are we all in agreement, player and devs, about what the assumptions are, about why this is a good feature? What is the game? What are the goals of the game? Can we get on the same page as quickly as possible? And once we get all that figured out, then we can make a great choice about, let's do this feature, or maybe the feature should wait, or maybe it's just not right for our game because it might distract us from some other stuff that is stronger. Yeah. So let's do a quick example. So I have a statement on here. It says, imagine it's just two people talking to each other. You don't know who they are. It's just two people. And one of them says, you came home late last night. What are the assumptions we can make as part of that statement? So if you really pick it apart, you really read between the lines, you can almost go word by word in this. So I would look at that and say, the first word is you. That means there's two people talking. And it's maybe a familiar you. I know who you are, you. Okay. Home. Home means they maybe share, they have some kind of relationship where they occupy space together. It's probably their home. Okay, so now we know that these two people are not strangers. They have some kind of relationship with each other, and they have to deal with each other maybe on a regular basis. Late last night. So late would imply that hey, there's some kind of schedule, some kind of expectation. There's probably some kind of time that somebody was supposed to arrive home at, and there's a good time and there's a not a good time. So now we have some more information that, hey, something there's process or schedules or expectations to be followed. And then the last one is last night. So this isn't now, it happened the day before, which means maybe the person stating this has stewed upon it for an entire day. They've been thinking about it. And maybe even the tone of the way I said it means that they're upset and they've been thinking about it all day and it's really brewing in them. Okay. So I made a lot of assumptions in all those statements, right? There's a relationship, there's a home, a schedule, there's somebody is upset. This is maybe a repeat offense. A day has passed, right? But with all these information, maybe we can prove out that some of these are true or not. Maybe we can just go ahead and assume some of them are true. Now we can make some good choices. Maybe the person who responds might say, "Oh, honey, I was buying you a gift. I was out late buying you a gift." Okay, so that kind of would affirm some of those assumptions. So by saying honey, you know that there's a relationship, but it's specifically a romantic relationship. And they said, I was buying you a gift, which is not a normal circumstance. So it kind of explains that despite being late, there was a schedule, but it's broken for a good reason. And now we can make a choice whether or not, hey, with all that, with those assumptions and all that context, is there a problem here? Are these people in trouble? Or is person number two not listening very well?
This is also
And
really
that's improv.
interesting. Like a really
We gotta
interesting thing, I think, with like, I think me and Dave's role in particular, maybe disproportionate to some people on the team, is a lot of our role is listening to people actively, trying to like understand when unspoken things are like occurring. And yeah, like Dave, you kind of nailed it. Where like in that sentence, there's actually a lot of unspoken things that are clearly under the surface there. And that happens, you know, in day-to-day interactions with coworkers and like when they're talking about the feature or the game or things they want to do. It happens with players when we're getting feedback. And I think a true art of receiving feedback, generally, actually, I would even say sometimes in my personal life I do this too, is to try to think about not just what's being said, but yeah, like absorb the context, ask questions. You know, I think in an improv scenario, you're probably asking less questions and you're trying to like play up the scenario. But you know, in a conversation with someone, you're kind of trying to ideally build shared understanding. That's a phrase I think actually we like use at work a lot. It's like, what is the shared understanding we can build between two people that can get us onto the same page and help us work together?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, shared understanding is a really great way to explain it. And the names I says, oh, I was out late in Nera. That's a great excuse. I'd give the second person a pass.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah,
Try that
absolutely
with your
redeemable.
SOs.
Yeah, they'll thumbs it up and they'll say, "Oh, Nero, what's that? How do I wish list and subscribe?" So it'll be all great. I think a great example of this coming up for us was, um, a lot of times when folks get emotional, especially about the game, we're all very passionate about the game. People will uh, uh, they'll talk about some requests or features with a lot of emphasis, with high importance, because for some reason it's very important to them. And that's when it's really important to understand what is the context of what are the assumptions we're making about why it's so important. And an example of that would be we got a lot of feedback about keybinds, and I think we know a lot of games that have keybinds. It's a pretty common feature, but if you read between the lines, when people say, I want keybinds, it's not just this is my preference, but maybe literally a lot of people can't play the game without keybinds. They are accessibility wise not able to do so. And if with just the blank statement that it's my preference, we have to maybe read a little bit further and say, maybe it's more than just preference, it's a necessity. I want to play your game, but I literally can't. And so we have to, as devs, see that, acknowledge that, and make a good choice about, do we want these players to have a great time? Yes, let's do the keybinds. Cool. So hopefully with that improv exercise, y'all love improv. You're all going to go take classes right after this. and then it's all great. But let's try this out on some requests for the game, some feature requests for the game, and we'll try and find some of the assumptions in these requests. All right, and we'll try and make some great decisions, great choices with those assumptions in mind. Okay, so number one, let's try this. Oh, this question. If it's possible to have every tool, weapon, and armor qualities, would it be possible to have a chance to craft into them? If it was possible to have tool, weapon, armor qualities like normal, uncommon, rare, and unique, would it be possible to have a chance to craft into them? Yeah, it'd be possible, but what are some of the assumptions in there? So you're talking about um, with an assumption that chance, maybe we were talking about, is there some kind of fairness? I want the chance to roll a unique to be fair. Or, oh, yeah, go ahead. Original Cook is going to give us some assumptions. I can think of, if something is considered unique, the value of that weapon should be appropriately high quality. So you wouldn't want a super rare common axe. You probably want something with some pizzazz, some value to it, some better stats. And maybe that implies that we have to have a broader spectrum of items to give. Okay. Cookie says, normal bow does 2 to 5 damage, but I proc a rare that does 6 to 8. So that's implying, yeah, a rare item, a rare bow is more valuable than a normal bow because damage is valuable. More damage is valuable, and maybe there's an assumption that damage is more valuable because you're more efficient at fighting. You feel safer. So those are reasonable assumptions, but it also maybe keeps going. We talked about efficiency and safety. Maybe our game is set up where, well, if every single enemy in the game has 2 hit points, well, that excess damage isn't any more efficient. Now, all of a sudden, we might have to do some enemy balancing. Or if the bow, maybe the ammunition of the bow is rare also. So while a single shot is very efficient, but acquiring more shots is expensive. So now all of a sudden we have to do some dipping into other systems, which is kind of it's kind of the point of all this, that as we keep making more assumptions, it maybe reveals a few more assumptions that kind of cascade into downstream assumptions, and we want to make sure we get all those in line, get them all known, and then we can make a choice once we know as many as we can to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great suggestion. That's a really cool thought exercise. Thanks, Cookie. But okay, let's try it again on this one in front of us. This one was this is about emotes. So a long time ago, when we put emotes into the game, they are animation-based emotes. So the one on the left is the wave. So you toggle the emote from the emote wheel, and then your character starts waving. And when the animation's done, it stops, and you go back to a neutral state. So we had a couple of these. I think we had the bow emote back then too. But we wanted, somebody on the team requested, well, to be more expressive in the game, what if we had an emote that doesn't really end? And so from that, we got the one on the right, which was the sit emote. So in this case, there's an animation, but the animation doesn't revert back to player idle standing state. It stays in this, I don't know what I'd call it, but maybe an emote idle state, a pending state, where you're still sitting and it doesn't go back to neutral. So what does that mean? What are the assumptions here? So we had some baseline assumptions about the game where players should be able to run and jump and act when they want to. So imagine somebody is emoting and they're sitting and they weren't allowed to jump. I think that'd probably be an assumption that players don't want to have. Or what if they want to attack while they're sitting? Probably not good. Um, or what if a player got attacked and hit while they're sitting and they couldn't respond to that? That's probably not good. So some baseline gameplay assumptions that I think players would reasonably agree with. So we got to deal with those situations. What about the state of the player? So if they're sitting, can they do other things? Like, should they be able to operate their inventory? Or are they stuck in an emote condition where they're not done with the emote? Well, they should probably be able to check their inventory. Seems reasonable. Um, and maybe what about this is a multiplayer game? Obviously, if you emote, you want other players to see your emote. So there's an expectation that when you emote, the emote shows up on the other players' computers too, visually. So that one seems kind of silly to think about. Of course, that what's the point of emoting if nobody can see it? But there, it happens. Sometimes we get what we call a client-server desync, where on your client you're emoting, but the server doesn't know that. And then the server, since it doesn't know that, it doesn't tell the other clients. And then all of a sudden, you're the only one emoting. So sometimes we forget that this is a multiplayer game, and you have to make these implementations with regards to other players that are in the game too.
Yeah, Dave,
Yeah.
actually, do you want to
So
share a little bit of the history of how the booty scoot came to be? Because, yeah, originally, and as you can see in the skip, is you would sit, and then when you would do something like an action like attack or like walk, you would be taken out of the emote, which I think is probably in most cases, maybe if people didn't fall in love with the booty scooty, in most cases, I think it's probably like the ideal assumption that people want.
yeah. So yeah, we ended up putting this implementation of sitting in, and uh, we got to the point where we had the players sitting, and well, we can't have players just sitting. We want them. We didn't have an explicit end emote option on the wheel. So, what would be the most natural way that players would assume you would get out of a sitting emote? Well, just doing any action, maybe movement, just move to cancel an emote, which seems reasonable and maybe intuitive too. So, um, what do? We on our whenever the player moves, cancel the emote. Pretty straightforward, and it did work. Yeah. But for some reason, when we did that, uh, afterwards, our game started crashing. Or players would get disconnected from the game. Not because of the emote, but they would just, we would just be playing, and a random player would disconnect from the game, and then just get knocked out randomly until maybe just the host remains. And it's pretty it is pretty stressful because it just seems so random. We didn't really have a lot of clues as to why it was happening. It wasn't really connected to any certain event in the game. Um, and it was something we had to really put a lot of effort into investigating. And eventually we did investigate it, and it looked like we tracked it down to this emote. And it turns out because we attached canceling the emote to walking, well, players walk a lot. They walk, if you hold forward, they're walking every single frame of the game. So imagine uh, we're sending a cancel emote request to the server every time you walk, every frame, 60 times a second for every single player.
Turns
So
out
that's,
computers don't like that.
yeah. Computers can do a lot. They can do it pretty fast, but you can make them mad. Yeah. So, hundreds of requests to stop emotes just flooded the server. And at some point, it got so many, it gave up on sending data to other players. It just said, I can't. Sorry, disconnect. And that's it. So, we tracked down player disconnects to stopping emotes. And what was the solve for this? Well, uh, take out that request. So let people move, but don't bother canceling the email. Just let them move. And thus the booty scoot was born. And I think we had it in for a long time because players actually liked it. That's us listening to feedback.
Yeah, the for the booty scoot mourners, we are definitely trying to find a way to bring it back in a way that we think, especially I think it's really fun for a community thing. Like you guys saw, it's a really early and kind of like fun bug that you can do a lot of fun stuff with. But I think as like a brand new player coming into the build, they're like, what is this like jank weird thing that I can do? Like they don't like really understand it. I feel like. So we really hope to bring that back as some sort of like community type of reward, even. So keep an eye out for that.
Fingers crossed. Feature upvote. Yep. So yeah, this boiled down to like what are the assumptions we were making? We had a lot of assumptions about how we handle animations and state of animation. We had some assumptions about multiplayer, how we send data to other players. We had some assumptions on, well, if I cancel an emote, can I cancel it once or can I cancel it 100 times and is the effect the same? Maybe not. In this case, it was very not the same if you called it 100 times. Maybe there's an assumption that it wouldn't run if you're not in an emote. I guess that wasn't true. So with that assumption, once we figured out, oh, this assumption was wrong, now we have a better assumption. Do not assume that you can call this cancel operation anytime you want. We made a good choice, which was allow the booty scoot to happen or to change the implementation completely. So I think we ended up doing both. Sintra asks, why wouldn't this just work? If emoting moved and canceled emote. Yeah. That logic would probably work if you check if you're emoting before you send the request. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it happened that this
That's probably
particular implementation was not very solid. So it's not like an impossible problem to solve or something like that. But it was just that was kind of like the circumstance around it. I think it wasn't like necessarily implemented with all of the assumptions, like Dave is kind of saying, out in front of us.
Yeah. I think the key thing here is that there's a lot of implementations that would work if the assumptions that go with them are true. So even the original implementation would have worked. Move, then cancel emote. If that implementation of cancel emote was smart enough not to spam all these requests to cancel it, maybe by checking if the emote was running. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's go on to another one. Number 2. I want to skip the night by sleeping. And this was on the feature upvote board. And we actually did it. So I wanted to talk about some of the assumptions we took into consideration to make the choice. Yeah, we should probably do this. Yeah. So if we just look at the phrase, I think the words that call out to me are we're skipping, and we're skipping specifically at night, and we're using sleeping. Okay, so skipping means there's stuff I don't want to experience, and they're contained within the night. And I think at the time this was put into the request, it's probably things like enemy combat. So there's some difficulties, like frictions that maybe people don't want to experience. It could be accessibility. It's dark. I have bad eyesight, I guess. I literally can't see most of the game because it's so dark. It's harder to see things. Maybe it's pacing. Maybe the night is just too long versus the day, and we want to just have a better pacing of it. And maybe there's not enough reward. So maybe all the good stuff to experience is during the day, and maybe some of the less valuable stuff happens at night. Yeah. There might be some technical stuff that might be in consideration. So when we say sleeping, who is sleeping? So it's a multiplayer game. So if you sleep, does your time go to day? What about the other players? Do they stay at the night or do they go during the day? I think the assumption would be they probably have to go to the day too. Okay, so then would players be okay with being whisked away to the day if they're doing something at night because one player wanted to skip? Maybe not. So now maybe we have to assume that there has to be a way to coordinate how to skip to the day if we do this by sleeping. If sleeping is the proper way to do it, maybe there's a different way we can skip the night. Or maybe there's a different way if we had all those other frictions involved. Uh, why are people skipping the night? Can we eliminate those frictions or improve the value of the things that happen at night? Maybe. Or maybe it's just the length of the night that's kind of awkward. And if we change the length of the night, will people want to skip it at all? So it's more of a pacing thing. So we have a lot of assumptions that it actually makes there's a bunch of different types of way to approach the problem. So we can improve the value of it. We can improve the challenge of it. We can improve the timing of it. Or we can just do literally as it says. We can just let people skip it if they want to. And I think we ended up doing a little bit of all of it. So we literally implemented the sleeping feature. So, and that involves, since it's a multiplayer game and we have to have coordination, it involves multiple players getting into a bed, and then the entire server transitions over to day. But I think that'd be kind of band-aiding some of the reasons why. I mean, we wouldn't just have this thing that everybody should just by default skip the night and get to the day because that's where the good part of the game is. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. You want the whole entire game to be good. So I think there are also attempts to add some value to night by changing the way we approach friction at night, improve the reasons why you'd want to experience those frictions. So if there's something that's not as easy to enjoy, there must be a good reason why. Maybe a good reward or a good experience. So improving those areas too.
Yeah, this is something I could chime in a little bit too, because yeah, we've had a lot of attempts actually at making night very worth it. And originally, when we weren't able to skip the night, we actually really wanted it to be like, oh, there's like actually like a cool risk reward for going out at night, and like the rewards are better, but the enemies are stronger. But we definitely found through I think a lot of testing and feedback that it was kind of difficult to. I don't know. It was difficult to like make that feel like a really even trade, and we didn't have a lot of like they actually did drop better loot. Actually, Grace mentioned I wish we kept the tougher monsters at night as long as they dropped better loot. They actually did for a long time, but I think it's a really kind of hard concept to communicate if you don't get the thing that you want. It's kind of like, you know, it's not very appealing, and most people just weren't doing it because the enemies were hard and it was kind of unclear what you were going to get from them, even though the loot actually was better and you were getting more of it. So instead, I think we kind of changed some of those to be other types of benefits, like, yeah, things glowing at night, so actually resources are, like, easier to find. And I think we'd like to continue to, like, invest in this space, too. But yeah, it is kind of, like, an interesting, like, push and pull. Per Dave's point, it's, like, people, I think, actually wanted to skip the night because, because it was darker, it was hard to see, the enemies were harder, and it didn't feel worth it. So we kind of like added this feature to help with that, and also peeled back some of those mechanics that were kind of like not hitting very well. But now we have like a really good basis in the future to actually like build off of that too, and give people reasons to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is also a great example of there are ways to solve this problem, not by just introducing new mechanics like time travel and sleeping and player coordination, because that takes a lot of effort, especially as a new feature. It takes a lot of effort for us to come up with the new experience, get the implementation in, and make sure it plays well with other features. But if we change the existing content and make sure that the value and the goals are solid, then that could be a better decision, a better choice than just let's just throw some engineering work at it. So in particular, I really like the idea that we had things more visible at night. I believe glow stones underwater, they glow more aggressively at night, or they're easier to see at night, which I think is very cool, and it's a very creative way to justify why does that exist. It's intuitive. You can see it better, and you would imagine that in the day you can see everything. Well, this is a kind of this would challenge that and say you should risk the night because there's something that's important that you can only see at night, and it didn't take that much extra engineering work to do, just more content work, which oftentimes is a lot easier to do.
So there are a couple questions in chat we'll hit real quick before we go to the last section. Would you consider adding those nighttime monsters back in now that we can skip the night? I think it's not off the table, but I would definitely like, as you kind of saw, and if you're on the Discord doing the alpha test, we are making a lot of changes to combat balance and still getting a lot of feedback on that. I'd really love for us to get our baseline balance into a good state where people are engaging in it and feeling good about it before we kind of then start to try to add in these extra mechanics. So I think probably for the foreseeable future, it's a little off the table, but it's definitely not like a never, just a not now, I think. And is there a way that you can make it to where we can set our settings to the ones we want? I would love to fix my stamina and fix it to where I don't die every, I'm assuming like 2 seconds as the T in there. This is another actually, well, one, we probably won't crack into this topic, but that one's like a really good one that would have a lot of stuff to dig into for like assumptions of how that would work and like what settings people would want and how much you can expose and like what implications that has on the game design. So very meaty topic. But something we do really believe is that we want to offer some amount of server configurations as soon as we can so that people can tailor their experience a little bit better. Our audience is like very broad, plays a lot of types of games, and has a lot of types of needs. And it's honestly really hard as a small dev team as any team, actually, even in like big games like MOBAs and other like the biggest games have balance problems too. A lot of the times for that reason, but they have, a very specific target in mind. They like want a competitive experience, so it's really easy for them to tune their balance around that. But we want a really broadly accessible experience that as many people can play and play with their friends, and so something like server settings is a really appealing way for us to be able to support that and be able to offer that, because it's unlikely that we're going to land on a perfect balance tuning that everybody is going to be super happy with. So definitely something on our radar that we would love to support in the future. And we're just trying to figure out when and what. There's a lot of questions on what gets included in that too. Welcome in the chat, Ilanis. I can't tell how many of those are eyes
look
L's.
like L's. Yeah. This is 2025. We should be able to tell. Yeah, the difficulty feature is actually, it's really interesting because there's a lot of assumptions in there too, where games like ours currently, we don't have many dials for players to change the difficulty. Sometimes with the night feature, you might be considering that as I'm opting into difficulty by either staying in the night or switching out by skipping the night, going to day. But with other games, it might be explicit difficulty settings, like certain like single player first person shooters. They'll let you pick hard, medium, difficult, things like that. But there's a big assumption in there that we as devs are assuming, hey, we've crafted these difficulties to cater to all these players, and all players will fit into
we
these
know
buckets.
What's easy.
Easy peasy, right? Yeah. But of course, we all have our own preferences, and maybe I don't fit into a bucket. Maybe I want unlimited resources because I just love crafting. And maybe that even comes in with conflict with how we as devs want players to experience the game. We want a certain kind of progression too. So what's the best example? Best solution? Maybe just let you literally choose for yourself those settings. And if we get to doing the server configuration of these variables, you can choose to walk a different path. And maybe with those assumptions, we can make a better, if that's something that comes up a lot in terms of what people want, maybe we'll make a good choice and say, yeah, let's get that in. So we've had a lot of internal talks about that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Speaking of, Dave, do we want to move to the next topic?
Let's go to 3.
We wanted to talk about this one especially too because we know this is a feature a lot of people are excited about. We get questions about it all the time, and it's another really great one that has like a lot of like assumptions baked into it about how it would work and the mechanics of it, on top of like a lot of technical complexity too. So we thought it would be really fun to dig into it.
Yeah. Fast travel just has there's so many ways that someone can interpret what that means. I originally wrote I want to teleport, and even teleporting maybe means something different from fast travel. So yeah, we already have fast travel. You just get smacked by an enemy enough times and you'll go to your bed. Instant. Perfect, right? Right now we have that. So you die out in the world and you go back to a specific point, that point being the bed that you registered. Okay, done, right? Well, when people say, oh, I want fast travel between bases, Well, first off, what's a base? So we have buildings. Maybe a base is you build a bunch of buildings in a cluster. But how would you define that cluster? What if you built a building on every single occupiable space on the ground? What's kind of like the border of the base? And where do you go to in that base? So now we have to think about concepts of uh, the definition of a base, and maybe even the technical definition of the base. Which of these buildings is base one, and which of these buildings is base two? So you can distinguish traveling between the two. If they're 5 feet from each other, is that a base? Is that two bases? Who knows? But I would guess that a lot of people are talking about, since our game is open world and we have different zones, like if you're back at the starter area, you walk right outside the cave, versus you sail out into the ocean, you go really far, you collect all this loot, and you end up fighting the big scary fish or the big scary pokey guys with the spears, and then you die and you're stuff's way out there, and just that distance getting back to your person, solving that problem. Maybe that's a thing. Um, but does that involve bases, or is that more about getting back to where you used to be, where you were active? So is this a request about traveling between activity? And what happens to things where what if you're not active and you want to go to a place that was inactive, an idle base or something like that? So there's already a bunch of gameplay intention questions, assumptions in here. Um, but I think this is really interesting because technical assumptions. So we have a big open world. And the map is big. There's a lot of things like resource nodes and landscapes and enemies populating all parts of the world. And the way we've implemented the game, they're not all loaded all at once. That'd be really brutal to put on the host and maybe also the client. It's just too much stuff that's active at the same time. It's really inefficient if you're in the starter area and there's a bunch of activity in the reef that nobody's around to experience. Why waste resources doing that? So our current game, here's a big assumption, is anything that the player is not reasonably close to is not active. So what happens when you teleport to a place that is not active? Um, what should happen? Uh, will you teleport into the nothingness? I think that'd probably be a bad assumption. Okay, you should only teleport. I mean, you have to activate that area and then teleport into it, and it should be done activating, and then you teleport to it. I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption. But well, maybe that assumes that when you activate it, it's activated instantly. Because if you teleport instantly, then it has to be done being loaded before you get there. And maybe that's just not really possible with our current tech, which is actually the case. Um, loading in areas takes a little bit of time. So if the player has to wait to teleport, what happens in that period of time where they're waiting? Are they just kind of sitting there, or is there a countdown? Not sure. Uh, and if there's anything that has to happen in between, like maybe some enemies need to start doing stuff, or maybe some the passage of time needs to play out in some of those areas that depend on it. Who knows? So there's a lot of technical choices that come from a decision like this. And so even with this teleportation for dying, we had to already deal with it. So some of the technical ways we dealt with it was you might notice that if you teleport too far and the starter, maybe where your bed is at, got unloaded from the game, we throw up a loading screen. And so you have to wait for the area to load, and then you actually get teleported in. And that's to prevent you from doing things like falling through the world because the ground wasn't loaded. That would be pretty bad. But it's also interesting because maybe you had some stations that were there that were maybe processing resource, like crafting something, processing resources. So there's this element of the passage of time. What happens when those things are unloaded from the game and they get loaded back in? Will time have passed on those stations that got unloaded, or are they going to go back to when they got unloaded? So we have to build in some assumptions that I think players would expect those things to keep going and go through time. So there's a lot of interesting technical considerations, but also user considerations about the experience of teleportation. And if that's not really built into the framework of the game from the get-go, you really have to think it out before you just toss a feature into the game.
Yeah.
So
even like the UX implication too, it's a good point because I think there's even some comments in the chat. A lot of these are ideas we've thought of too, and maybe we'll still do them. But of like, oh, you should have to like go up to your anchor and click a menu, or it should only be tied to like directly in the anchor, and that's where you should spawn around it. And we had some different thoughts like that too, but it's kind of interesting to think about in comparing with games like Enshrouded. Like actually in Enshrouded, you just like open up the map and click on it to teleport as soon as you're like in your base radius. And there's like a lot of different ways, and it's kind of a balance of like technologically how do we do it, how does it fit into like the progression of the game, how do players discover that feature, and how do we make sure it's like really usable. Alanis asked, didn't you consider all of that when you added the option on the anchor if you built to go? We did consider it. So like I mentioned, we've had this idea for a long time. Some of the things we've had to do along the way are like build foundational text so that teleporting would work reliably. So actually like before, when you would die, you actually used to always go to like the lighthouse or something, which was like a forced preloaded area that like never got unloaded. But that was not really a sustainable solution. So unfortunately, this kind of had a lot of times actually in game development, features often have some of these like, especially big ones like this one that might seem small on the surface, but is actually like technologically really deep. Take these like building block steps to get there. So like we couldn't really just add this feature without figuring out, like how does a player reload parts of the world? Because also in an open world game, you can't just have the whole world loaded all the time, or like no computer will be able to like run it reasonably. So there's all of these kind of like pushing and pulling. So, over time we've been kind of like chipping away at some of this foundational work to be able to support something like teleporting. Until we're close to the state where we can do it. Now we just have to figure out when we can do it. There's even design considerations actually too, because I know a lot of people actually like want it right now, and probably our alpha players feel this a lot more. But I think actually we wouldn't, for example, want to give a reward like that within the first biome. Because we think that would probably trivialize a lot of the systems we're trying to get people into and to learn about. So we actually do want to wait until a certain like area in the progression to give that as a reward and unlock more free traversal in the world so that it feels like a really cool big accomplishment when you get there. So yeah, maybe it was probably a misstep on our end. We were, I think, trying to like toe the line of like showing people like what features were coming, and we didn't have like a lot of good ways to do that before we started doing dev blogs and dev streams. So we had that like placeholder teleport button on the Spirit Anchor. So maybe that was like a frustrating experience. So sorry if it sounds like maybe you were like, why isn't this feature already in? Because like it's been foreshadowed in the game for so long. That's why. But hopefully that means it'll come soon, and it'll be a really exciting ad when we add it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it kind of highlights that maybe a missed assumption here where, we added the teleport, but maybe the assumption is that ocean travel is not good enough or fun enough. And so therefore, I'm not willing to go through it. I'd rather just get to my destination right now and skip that part. It's very similar to skipping the night. So the value of wading through boat travel and doing the mechanics of boat travel weren't good enough. So if we just gave the teleportation, we might not be addressing the actual problem of boat travel, ocean travel, water traversal should just be great, and you shouldn't need to want to skip it. And then also the assumption that, hey, that lighthouse area is always loaded. Then that's an example of, well, this could potentially be a very hairy space of assumptions, but if we just carve out some smaller, strong assumptions, like this area will be guaranteed to always be loaded, all of a sudden we have some cheaper options of, oh, you can always teleport there. Maybe nowhere else, because everywhere else is hard, but this one spot will be easier to teleport to. That changes our options in terms of how we choose. We can choose to do that very specific version of the implementation, versus if we let anybody teleport from anywhere to anywhere, then there's a lot of assumptions we still need to work out. And any kind of assumption that is not a good assumption to have makes the choice really expensive for us to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I know we didn't leave. We were kind of taking questions like as we went, so we didn't leave a lot of dedicated time for questions. But there's a lot of great discussion. I have a few minutes extra, Dave. I don't know if you do, but if there's any last questions, we might want to field from the chat. So if anyone has questions that we didn't cover or didn't talk about, and you want to ask anything, the floor is yours. Also, sorry about my webcam. I'll try to get it fixed by the next time one of these.
My face is writing solo.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe instead of have a button to drop loot or keep loot on death. Yeah, that's the type of setting, Danger, that we would love to have in a server setting. A great example of one that's, I think, a really common one that other survival games do in server settings. Something I think wouldn't like inherently break the game loop if we like chose to do that or not. So yeah, would love to add something like that. And I think that's definitely on the high list of things we would want to add in the server configuration. Another one from Emote Pants. I love your guys' approach. You have great ideas and are willing to look into ideas that players have and test it out. That's actually, I didn't go to this frame, but that was almost like the wrap up to this whole like segment. Like that's kind of the whole point. That's why we do these dev streams. That's why we do the surveys. That's why we do feature upvote. We really want to hear what people want in the game and why. There's always this kind of like layer where we're getting these questions and it's not just like, cool, and now we have this backlog and we can make X feature. But we want to know, Dave's example of, hey, if the reason people want to, and I don't think this is the only reason people want to fast travel, just to be clear. I think there's other reasons it's valuable and a good reward. But if people want to fast travel immediately when the game starts because sailing sucks, that is really unfortunate for a seafaring survival crafting game. So we should really focus on making seafaring and discovering things underwater and sailing the boat really fun experiences. So, all the time we're kind of taking your feedback, making sure we try to understand it, reaching out on Discord. So it's been really great to have the community develop directly with us.
Yeah, I would say that we love getting the feedback from folks, and I wouldn't say that our ideas are better than any individual player's ideas. I think they're all great ideas. I think the trick here is that when we have an idea internally as a dev team, we have a good grasp of what the assumptions are behind that request or that idea. When it comes to a player's request or an idea or a feature, there's a lot of extra work we have to do to make sure we're all on the same page about those assumptions. But if those assumptions were cleared up and we all understood what they were and it's a good idea, it doesn't matter if it comes from the dev team or from a player. A good idea is a good idea. So it's really, I think we find all this feedback really valuable, and hopefully with maybe some of this perspective, clarifying the assumptions behind our requests as to why this feature is really important. Not just do the feature, but here's what I'm assuming is happening, and this feature would improve some of these assumptions, or it would work great because of these assumptions. That makes it really easier for us to say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and the choice of doing it and the evaluating the cost is a lot easier on our end, and we don't have to do a lot of extra back end work to really think it out ourselves. You're helping us do a part of that process, which is really great. And great choices equals awesome game, and that's what we want. That's it.
I love the spiraling of this coconut launcher. We've created the next.
It's happening.
Highest voted feature.
Yeah, so as soon as we see the coconut launcher on the feature upvote, make sure you put in the assumptions about why coconut launchers are a good idea and the context behind it and the assumptions about combat, and maybe it'll broaden our horizons as to, oh yeah, that makes total sense, and it's not a crazy choice. It's the best choice.
Any last questions? Dave's secret mission for today's stream: coconut launcher. Did you have a hidden agenda the whole time, Dave?
Yeah, this was kind of an Inception situation. I just kind of nudged everybody towards it. I never said coconut launcher from the get-go. I didn't need to. You all did it for me.
How many total zones are planned? Only 3? No, actually. So it's 3 by early access is our plan, but ideally 5 by our 1.0 or sooner. I think past 5, we're trying to figure out, like what that would look like. Because I don't know if we plan to, like continue to expand it or if we want to expand the world in other ways. But 5 is our target for like what we would consider a complete world experience. But definitely results may vary depending on what we think is the right answer by the time we get there. Also, this one's really cute. As someone that has watched a lot of these live streams and seeing the chemistry all of you guys and how you work together, it gives me a lot of faith and should be an eye-opener for others that this is something worth investing in. That's a really cute comment. Me and Dave do actually, I feel like, probably hang out more together than other people on the team, too. I would say we're buds, I hope, by this point. We do karaoke together, which I think is like the most like personally vulnerable activity you can basically do with someone, so...
Oh yeah, when you karaoke with someone, you know they have your back. If you're in a war, you have to check, have I sung karaoke with them? Oh yeah, I trust them with my life.
Are there any additional structure blueprints we'll be unlocking besides the round one? Da Vinci, we're trying to figure this out right now, actually. I don't know how many more, but yeah, we definitely want to offer a few types of variations of shapes of the kit. And another thing, actually, we're kind of doing the background work right now, actually, for when I talk about this process where you have to kind of stair-step and work on things a little bit over time. We're working on restructuring our building system so we can also offer more visual variety within a kit, so that maybe you could start with a wood wall, or you could have a thatch wall, or eventually have a stucco wall on your square building, and maybe the round buildings can also have multiple styles. Maybe when you get to the second biome, you'll unlock a coral wall, so your base can be cute and pink and shell material, you know. So this is something we're definitely working on, and hope to have some more updates soon. How's the ability to use a controller coming along? Good follow-up question. This is something we also really want to do. We're trying to fit it in by early access. It has a lot of complications with
assumptions.
A lot of assumptions with that one. But we do really want to have at least partial controller support, which would, probably be core gameplay action. So it's definitely on our radar. If you currently need a controller and don't already know of some of the options available, there's programs like ReWASD, or Steam also has like a controller, I don't know how to say it, like integration, where you can map controls from Steam onto your gamepad for different games. And I've heard that works really well for some players. Eliana said, I've been playing the game in multiplayer with my girlfriend, but she's getting burnt out from all the restarting. I understand why it's needed, so I'll do my run on my own time. Yeah, it's really tough. I think that's a high burden of being an alpha tester, actually, is the resets. And I think, actually, I don't know if this is good or bad, so it'll be interesting to analyze this someday. We find it really helpful to have a really frequent playtest cadence, because we're getting feedback all the time about the product and really being able to factor it into our plans. But obviously that's really hard for a playtester, where your content is then also getting reset a lot more, maybe than some other alphas that you would normally play in. So thank you for bearing with us and sticking with us and putting so many hours in, because we really appreciate it and it helps make the game better. But I know it's tough. I hope, definitely the goal is, like, when early access launches, no more data wipes. So you can look forward to that.
Yeah, you guys are doing a really big service, because our game you can't beat it in 30 minutes. You can't beat it in an hour. It's many hours of play. And we want feedback on all of it. And of course, the majority of the feedback is going to be oriented towards the beginning of the game, because that's where most players start. So all parts of the game it's important to us. And the folks who could go through all those parts multiple times, it just adds to the information we have, and it's really helpful. So thanks, everybody.
Also love this. Hashtag no more wipes 2025. No more baby wipes. No more data wipes. No more Clorox wipes. No wipes.
Wow, the war on wipes.
Awesome. I think probably we're getting to the stage where we do need to head out. We got to go back and work on the game. But so if you haven't already subscribed to our mailing list, I think there's links for that in our dev blog and in our socials and our announcements channel recently too. But we do have a mailing list that Miko actually said that they love. Thank you, Miko. But I would definitely subscribe to that mailing list if you want more frequent updates straight to your inbox. So hopefully that'll make it easier to keep track of what we're doing. If you're joining the stream for the first time and you're not in our Discord, we have a really active, awesome community in our Discord that's growing all the time, and we would love you to be a part of it. So make sure to join our Discord. There are a lot of developers in there all the time, talking to people, talking through feedback. So it's a great place to be if you want to give feedback on the game. Don't forget about the fan art contest too. Really want to see what beautiful bullwug art you draw. So if you are interested in that, don't forget to enter the fan art contest. But
Add a bullwug with a coconut launcher.
Oh my god, that would be awesome.
There you go.
That would be so funny. I really hope we see that. Oh, my dog has... Oh, no, my webcam's off. You can't see. My dog has finally broken into the room. He's been scratching at the door for like the last 30 minutes. Thanks, everybody, for joining the stream. Thanks, Dave, for being on and talking us through all of this awesome improv meets game dev.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks for letting me talk about improv in the game.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
Oh, Foxy Nick, sorry you missed the stream. There'll be a VOD. Bye, everybody.